A warm welcome to all the joining today's webinar subjected on effective, accountable, and inclusive governance, public administration reforms on empower people. So I would like to welcome all these senior people, like our Director General Sri V. Srinivas sir, Dr. Shalini Rajneesh Madam, Additional Chief Secretary, Planning, Government of Karnataka, Dr. Rajendra Nimje, Director General, Center for Good Governance, Hyderabad, Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Excise and Sugar Industry, Government of UP, all senior academicians from reputed University of India, all district collectors of aspirational districts, all colleagues from NCGG. So it's a warm welcome. And I'm basically for this webinar, we have invited the three lead speakers. That is the Dr. Shalini Rajneesh, Additional Chief Secretary, Planning, Government of Karnataka, Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh, and Rajendra Nimje, Director General, Center for Good Governance, Hyderabad. I will introduce all of them according to their session. And now I would like to invite our Director General to give the introductory key remarks of this webinar. Welcome, sir.
So, on behalf of the National Center for Good Governance, webinar series 14, let me welcome Srimati Shalini Rajneesh ji. She has participated in our international events, but on a national platform, this is the first time you have addressed our ITEC and CGG Africa, also the Asia events. Thank you. Let me welcome you for this domestic event, which is part of Bharat Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And let me extend a warm welcome to my distinguished colleague and good friend, Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy, the Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh. This is the first initiative of Government of Uttar Pradesh we are presenting on our platform. And we thank you for making time for joining us today. The third participant is Dr. Rajendra Nimje, the Director General for the Center for Good Governance. And the subjects that we have chosen for you today are all digital governance or e-governance subjects. And Dr. Shalini would be speaking on the corporate social responsibility portal that she has started. In fact, a lot of corporates have said that making money is easy, but making a difference is so much harder. And Dr. Shalini's initiative in having a corporate social responsibility portal has made a significant difference with regard to where a corporate can invest money in large or small projects or experimental projects and how they can take it forward. And many times CSR is equated to philanthropy. And in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in my tenure, I would see large trusts like Tata Trust or the Infosys Foundation coming in with huge donations. Of course, we do have academic collaborations like the Rockefeller Foundation or the Gates Foundation, which have been working in health sector also. And the broad view was, let us try and plant seeds which will yield fruits, which will benefit generations in future. And I think the CSR portal is a very commendable initiative of the government of Karnataka to help entrepreneurs choose wisely on how to make investments. My compliments. When I saw this presentation, I was truly impressed with the effort that was put into taking it forward. My compliments, Dr. Shalini, for this initiative. The second presentation that we have is from Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy ji, and it is a presentation called Smart Ganna Kisan. And the DRPG has had a number of opportunities to examine under the PM Awards and the e-governance awards projects that have come in with regard to ENAM. And the electronic national agricultural market has enabled farmers to sell their products in several other states. For example, cotton produced in Gujarat could be sold to the textile mills in Coimbatore. Now, the Smart Ganna Kisan is an initiative which has resulted in massive increase in profits for the sugarcane growers in Uttar Pradesh. And the magnitude and the size of the impact across the length and breadth of Uttar Pradesh has been a feature of this particular initiative. And my compliments to Government of Uttar Pradesh and of course to Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy ji for playing such a leadership role in this initiative. Then the third presentation that we have today is with regard to the Smart Vendors Act. And Dr. Nimje has taken forward the PM Swanidhi scheme, in which the small vendors who sell their products on the streets are all licensed vendors, and they can take it up in a more regulated manner. And not only do they find space, but they also find greater opportunities, lending opportunities, and recognition on how to sell their produce. And 2 days back, when I was discussing this project with him, I was informed that it has benefited more than 100,000 small vendors in Hyderabad city alone. So let me congratulate you, Dr. Nimje, for creating this app and taking it forward. I think the sequence of presentations are by Dr. Shalini, the first speaker, followed by Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy ji as the second speaker, and Dr. Nimje as the third speaker. May I request Professor Poonam to kindly introduce Dr. Shalini to the audience, and then Dr. Shalini can make the presentation, please. Thank you. Nimje, you are muted. Kindly unmute yourself. Kindly unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, good morning, ma'am. I would like to introduce the first lead speaker, Dr. Shalini Rajneesh, Additional Chief Secretary, Planning, Government of Karnataka. Formally, she is a women topper of Indian Administrative Service IAS 1989 batch. Dr. Rajneesh, formerly she held the post of Principal Secretary at various departments such as School Education Department, Health and Family Welfare Department, Backward Class Welfare Department, Personnel and Public Grievance Department of Government of India. She is gold medalist in psychology, MBA from Australia and PhD in rural development. She has penned 11 books, 6 in English and 5 in Kannada, covering subjects like management, personality development, women empowerment, IAS coaching, etc. Welcome, ma'am. Now I would like to invite you to speak on your subject. Please welcome.
At the outset, let me thank the chairperson of National Center for Smart Governance, Srinivas, for organizing very, very meaningful webinars of this nature where we can share knowledge and good practices across not only across the country, but across the world. And I'm sure all of us are greatly benefited by this effort of yours. I'm sure all of you would have really worked very hard on it. So congratulations and thank you for inviting me. I have given a video, Poonam, if you can play that, and then onto the PPT, if you can put it on share mode, I will then speak about it. So I have presented.
Yes, I have conveyed. Yeah, I have conveyed the personal.
Yeah, you can play the video. That will give an overview of what this integrated CSR portal is all about. Then I'll explain, and it'll take another 10 minutes to explain about it, the background and the advantage. So thank you very much. Akanksha.karnataka.gov.in. You can access this on the public domain, and quickly taking you through the background, why did we go about this kind of an innovation, was obviously COVID pandemic, and that affected the budgetary resources of the state, as you all know. We were having a huge gap, and next slide, please. So we thought of having this initiative with the help of UNDP. We told them that let us try to look at additional resources for the state government, and they in turn put the tender, and they got an agency called ITM Limited appointed for this purpose. They have spent 38 lakhs for this purpose. This was launched on 26th of May by Honorable Chief Minister and CEO of Niti Ayoga. Now it is being extended to Haryana, Maharashtra, and more states free of cost. Why I say so is that this is available for all of you. Any one of you who wants to do it, please contact us and we'll put you across with the ITM Limited. It is free of cost. Please feel free to make use of it. Next slide. When I looked at from the planning department, we have got something called Vision 2030. This is my old ex-chief minister's picture on it, because for next 10 years, we had a vision, and to complement that, we had the budgetary requirements. And we found that in 10 sectors, we were falling short of about 13,000 crores. And finance department just raised its hands. We have no money to fund you. So we started looking at this as an alternative resource. Next slide. We found that there is a lot of unutilized potential in the CSR field, and we could make use of it if only we provided a transparent, an effective, and an efficient platform which the corporates would immediately welcome and utilize. And apart from the corporates, we have tried to involve all other stakeholders, including my government officials, about 15,000 of them. There are 6,800 NGOs, any number of donor agencies. Then we have other innovators as well. Every penny that gets into the system, onto the project, is exhibited in this portal for transparency as well as accountability, and everything is available in the public domain. From the sustainability point of view, since this portal is there, whether I'm there or another person is there or not, doesn't matter. The systems continue, and it is so user friendly that it will take care of its own perpetuation. Next, please. The only source where you can know where the CSR is being spent, how much it is being spent, is our Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. We try to find out how many companies are operating in Karnataka and what is their prescribed CSR. According to the figures there, 5,024 crores should have been spent, but actually they spent 4,354 crores. So if this 650 crores approximately I could get for my state, it would have been a win-win scenario. Corporates would have got good projects, and I would have got good money to fill in my gaps. Next, please. Then we tried to look at where these companies are located, and we found that mainly two biggest spenders were Wipro and Infosys, as everybody is aware of. And which are the sectors they were preferring? It was education and environmental sustainability. Other sectors were not really the favored ones, and we tried to find out the reasons. Why are they not able to spend for this? And as Srinivas said, it is easy to make money, but very difficult to make a difference. They were not able to find out where to make a difference, how to make a difference. Therefore, they needed the support of the government agency who could give them a window to say, look, here if you invest and donate, you can make a difference. Next, please. We tried to also look at the location of the various companies, and among them, the IT. So as you know, IT sector forms the major corporate sector in Karnataka and in Bangalore in particular. So we found which are those companies, and then we tried to have one-to-one kind of contact with their CSR heads to understand better their requirements and their bottlenecks. Next, please. When we look at this national portal, we found that majority, although the portal says you should mention, it is mandate. Some of the mandatory guidelines of the Corporate Affairs Ministry are not being followed. So we raised some of these issues also with the ministry. See, they're supposed to mention where do they invest. So many of them don't even mention the location of their projects. That is a little bit of a transparency issue. So in future, I'm sure this particular portal would ensure not only the district, but down to the village level, it will show on a geographical information system where the amount is being spent and when. The second is we found that majority of their funding was Bangalore, Mysore, Mangalore, Hubli. These are four top cities of the state. That means because the industry is located in the industries in these cities, therefore they tend to spend around that because they're more familiar with that area. So rest of it, particularly our aspiration districts, get very poor response from CSR because there's no connect between the two because of basically the physical distance itself. Next, please. So some of the challenges, just to substantiate, were that one prescribed amount is not spent in the state itself. So many of these, because they're all multinational companies, they have the advantage of spending in any other place, although they may be located in our state. So that was our opportunity window also. Second is we have no proper mechanism to collate this information and monitor where it is being spent, what are the outcomes, etc. There was no linkage between government, donor, and implementing agency. As a result, we found a lot of overlap of projects, and where the actual need is there, the CSR will not reach. The CSR reporting has more of financial data. It doesn't capture the beneficiary or the impact part of it, which is very important as far as, again, ministry's guidelines are concerned. Next, please. So the solution was to come out with this tripartite or a all multi-stakeholder kind of connect, where we had 15,600 officials, 5,800 NGOs, 2,632 donor agencies, and 6.6 crore people who would benefit from this program. Next, please. We rolled out the responsibilities and roles of each stakeholder. So the ball started from our court. The first thing we had to do was that we trained all our government officials to say, look, apart from your budgetary allocation, what is it that you need and is very critical for showing results in terms of desirable outcomes under SDG action plan. So they would then put that thing as a demand on the portal. So let's say a hospital in Udupi would say, look, I need an oxygen generator plant immediately, or some concentrators immediately, otherwise I can't save lives. So that's what will be flashed once they enter it. It will be flashed on the portal. Then the second thing we did was for hassle-free approval from the government of a project and immediate MOUs online with digital signatures. So we create that. Third, we created a live dashboard to review. So once I've donated, where the things stand, and I can't go physically and check. So pictures uploading opportunity was provided for. And the second and the next most important thing is that lot of convergence of various stakeholders was ensured. So there could be, the health department, the women and child department, the revenue department, or the NGO concerned. Everybody had to work together to come out for an actual implementation of that plan. So this platform ensured hassle-free convergence. Next was the best practices should be showcased and replicated. It's not enough that one good thing you do and then leave it at that. No, we want multiple results to come out of that. Therefore, the best practices, not only from the government, but from the others, as I explained, the others' roles, were also showcased. So now it is up to me as a participating agency to pick up which best practices in my own area of interest, and who will help me in rolling it out both from the government and the non-government sector, and then just get going without any paper movement or any physical meeting with the people concerned. Next, please. So we had these very, very simple steps, as I mentioned. We go onto the portal, we add the data, and the MOU is generated, and you get started. So it's just 10 minutes kind of an exercise, and I'm sure everybody has 10 minutes to go. Next, please. Similar roles and responsibilities were defined for the CSR agencies. they can now, once we've loaded the projects, they can select which district, which taluk, which sector, let's say education or COVID. That time we highlighted COVID related issues. So they can select that, and then they can just say, they just tick mark, this is what they want. Immediately they get connected to the email IDs of the concerned stakeholders, both official and the NGOs, and they end up with the MOU, and then they start the implementation, and the implementing agencies are bound to send the outcome reports onto the portal, and then they can make use of it for their audit and other purposes. Next slide. Coming to the NGOs' responsibilities, again, they are the people who are there in the field. Normally, they have the pulse of the scenario at the field level. So they would, not only give their own best practices and their own strengths, but also they would go on doing the updation part of it. So it's like a third-party thing also. So you cannot say that, officials may be fudging records and something. So there is somebody who is also there as a third party to ensure transparency as well as accountability. Next, please. So when we found, as I think from May till now, we have already collected about 249 crores, and majority of that went to healthcare. 238 crores went to healthcare, obviously because COVID situation and lockdown situation was a spurring factor. But now I'm finding that CSR companies are showing more interest in education, particularly because the children who do not have, let us say, the tabs, etc., or e-learning modules, modes, they are coming to donate tabs like that. Other sectors, environment, tree sapling, all those things are now coming up. Skilling is a very big thing. Very recently, Apollo Hospitals came up and said that we will skill at least one worker from the field, from the community. And for that, I volunteered to give my NSS volunteers, and they will train them in COVID management at home, so that if our hospitals are full and our medical personnel are not able to handle, our volunteers are going to have a community network to arrange for. So with that foresight also, the skilling part, which is, again, we don't have a real financial movement of CSR, but we have in-kind kind of a contribution which is coming in. Next, please. So I just quickly go through these slides where I think the video has already covered various responses and various projects which have really happened. Keep on moving the slides, please. So these are very innovative thing. Now Ola cabs. Now when you come to government things, you can't immediately say, okay, Ola cab will provide doorstep delivery. People were in lockdown, they were not able to move, and whom to call, how to call, who will pay. So Give India Foundation, for example, they said, okay, we engage Ola, and they will deliver the oxygen concentrators to your house, and you can give it back after so many days. Everything was free of cost. So very innovative things happened with this kind of flexibility that we had with the CSR funds. Next, please. This is for our aspiration districts. Then next, please. Porter.com again helped us in a lot of logistics. We had oxygen on wheels. Many patients, I'm sure everybody read in the papers, many patients were standing outside the hospitals, not even having a bed. So we got the oxygen and the beds fitted into the our old vehicles, and made the people wait there comfortably in an AC vehicle, and then save lives. Next, please. Indian Institute of Technology came out with a very good, quick, within 3 days, they constructed a hospital, 100-bed extension hospital on site, and Doctors for You organization came forward to give all the doctors and nurses and medical supplies, everything they gave. So without really burdening the already stretched government resources, these things came very handy. Next, please. Then we had nutrition issues for children, women, pregnant women, etc. So we had a lot of agencies coming up to save the saviors and to give proteins and so many other things. Next, please. So all this, we didn't really have the flexibility, but thanks to CSR donors and the NGOs in place, we could really help and save a lot of lives during COVID-19 pandemic. So I'll just sum up by saying that when we have crisis, we look at innovations, and crowdsourcing of funds, ideas, personnel certainly lead to desired results, which again is an aspect of our good governance. We have to bank upon IT platforms for a common cause to connect, to converge, and governance, let's say, is not the core competence of companies. It's ulta. Governance is not the core competence of government, and best practices are not only the monopoly of companies. Only when we exchange with each other, I think there are a lot of good things that companies have done, a lot of good things that NGOs have done, and when we learn from each other, I'm sure we enrich the governance as a whole, and the quality of life of the people is improved. Thank you so much for your patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini. I think it was wonderful to see thousands of 2,600 companies coming together to collaborate with so many projects and so many donations coming in, and the well-known donors like Infosys, Wipro, and even Hindustan Aeronautics has contributed so immensely to the task. There are some questions coming in, but I'll take up the questions after the other two presentations are over, and I'll request you to kindly stay in the web room. May I now invite our second speaker, Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy ji. Before I invite him to speak, Professor Poonam, can you kindly introduce him, please?
Thank you so much, sir. Sri Sanjay Bhusreddy is a 1989 batch Indian Administrative Service officer belonging to the Uttar Pradesh cadre. He is currently serving as the Additional Chief Secretary to Excise and Sugar Industry and Cane Development Department of Uttar Pradesh, and previously served as the Chief Vigilance Officer of the Minerals and Metals Trading Corporation Limited, MMTC, Delhi, under the Department of Commerce, Government of India. The Joint Secretary of Administration and Animal Husbandry, Dairying, Fisheries, Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India, and also the Judicial Member of Board of Revenue, Lucknow. He holds several degrees in Law, University College of Law at Nagpur, India. So now I would like to invite Sir to speak on the Smart Ganna Kisan project. Welcome, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, my batchmate V. Srinivas, the Additional Secretary, DAPRG, DR, and DG NCGG, and his team for inviting Government of UP to share our experience on a very critical and ticklish area of cane farmers, which is big issue in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and it's also influences a lot of other side of law and order and other things. And therefore, we took up this project 2 years back. To begin with, I would just first explain that the inception year was 2018. The Smart Ganna Kisan, the coverage of the project is 250,000 square kilometers in 45 districts of Uttar Pradesh, where 120 sugar mills they get benefited, and the farmers who are in these 45 districts. We have 168 cane cooperative societies. We have 6 million sugarcane growers, out of which 4.5 million cane suppliers, farmers. They participate every year because there is a rotation of crop, and accordingly they do. Every year we purchase 35,000 crore worth of sugarcane, which is marketed through these 120 sugar mills, and that is the money which goes in the hands of the sugarcane farmers. The problems and constraints before us, before the SGK was implemented, the entire cane marketing was dominated by sugarcane mafias. They were goons into themselves, lords and mafias. And thereby, they ensured effacement of our cane cooperative societies and their functionalities. Different systems and methodologies were prevailing in various sugar mills, that is, these 120 sugar mills. There was deliberate concealment of vital data by the sugar mills so that the entire benefit does not pass on to the farmers. There was lack of real-time information both to the government and to the farmers and to other stakeholders. There was a lot of exploitation of small and marginal farmers, which is a big number in the state of Uttar Pradesh, by middlemen. The disadvantages before we implemented these SDK, as I was mentioning, we had different formats and partially computerized data sets. So the data sets were in different formats. The data sets were prone to errors. There was unnecessary visit to sugar mills and different offices. And that's a huge number which each farmer would do in every season. There was a lot of manipulation of data sets as it was with various other stakeholders and in their control. Lack of transparency and intermittent communication was there, which also ensured interrupted cane supply to sugar mills. Those who know the functioning of sugar mills, if there is an interruption of even 2 hours, the entire process goes for a 6, and the sugar mill enters into a lot of loss for this interruption. We had, therefore, with certain objectives, thought of this particular and conceived this Smart Ganna Kisan project. One was one of the major objectives. There are many, but the main 5 objectives are: it has to be technology driven and transparent. Cane marketing has to be there. Real-time information dissemination has to be there, so that all the stakeholders get real-time information, including the sugar millers who were up till now were holding the entire data sets. Elimination of middlemen and cane mafias, reduction in cut to crush time. The process of sugarcane, in this, the cut to crush is very, very important, which means when it is harvested in the field and when it is crushed in the sugar mill. So if half a day passes, the dryage is more and the recovery of sugar is less in case of these sugar canes. Then spreading of digital awareness in rural areas, because this is a big challenge, especially in the hinterland of Uttar Pradesh, to spread digital awareness. But this was also one of our objectives of SGK. Then we had to do a lot of re-engineering of our processes and procedures. And before we started with this, we thought of having a wider consultation with all stakeholders. Lots of brainstorming sessions were there. Discussion with IT experts took place. Then there were centralized implementation and monitoring systems were put in place. And we made the cane development societies, which are the fulcrum of the entire cane marketing between the sugar mill and the sugar farmer. And it is their job to protect the interests of the sugarcane farmers. So them as the agent of change. Now, once we did this, we had to decide on the systems architecture, because this would then ensure the success of the project. How the data would be acquired, the data acquisition, we took the help of digital technologies and equipments. We had handheld computers equipped with GPS and by their data internet connectivity. Then we had a central database so that there would be one uniform, compact data set under the control of the department, so that there is data protection from cyber attacks and other things, as well as theft and all other allied attacks which happen whenever there are very large data sets. So, and how do we reach with all the stakeholders? That is through our website, caneup.in. Then there is an app on the so that all our farmers can use this particular system through their handheld devices, cell phones, or laptops or tablets. Then we used SMS in a big way, because every farmer has to get a cane slip to go to the weighing center and supply his cane. So that used to be all paperwork. So there used to be cane slip generation, then distribution of cane slips to these 45 lakh farmers, and then they take their cane. So all this was removed, and it was simply through SMS. And those farmers who didn't have these 3 systems to bank upon, the website or on a computer or a laptop or an Android phone, then for them we had inquiry terminals put in place, both in the sugar mills and in the societies, for them to go and have a look. But fortunately, the penetration of Android phone even in rural parts of Uttar Pradesh, we found that it was huge. So that facilitated in the quicker rolling out of the project. Then the paradigm shift which we did was everything from manual to digital. As I've told that the data acquisition and everything, and the end product to the farmer, that is the cane slip, from where the marketing starts. So this entire process was digitized. Everything was paperless. We used to give them a paper calendar when your when your paper purchase would come, or which now our SMS purchase would come. So this digital calendar tells them when they should be ready, when they'll require workers to harvest their field. Then if their purchase for some reason, if he gets sick or something, he is unable to supply. Earlier they had to go to the societies and get it revalidated. This digital purchase, this SMS purchase were digitally revalidated by the software on its own, and they knew okay, now it will come after 7 days again. Then online randomized transfer of payment class. These payment class became mini mafias, because then they would develop a click with some of the local goons. So every 15 days we transfer them by the system itself. That's a lottery mode, which the system generates and hands over to the sugar millers. Then online verification and correction of data. This is a big problem which the farmers had to every time go to the offices off and on for correction and verification of their data, or some modification they want to do, like cell phone numbers, etc., etc. Similarly, the transparency was one of our key things. Therefore, complete data was now available in public domain. People can see each other's data, whether anybody has tinkered, if he has 1 acre farm, whether he is getting the tickets and slips for 1 acre, or he has managed to make it 4 acres and get 4 times the slips. So all that transparency issues were taken care of. No manual interference. Every log is being maintained for forensic purpose, in case if any inquiry needs to be done, if anybody has tinkered with the system or some hacking has taken place. So log of every correction, everything. Acceptability and outreach. The SGK website hits are 5.1 crore. It itself shows the acceptability of the project. The website growers hit is 16.46 crores. eGanna app download is 44.40 lakh. We have 45 lakh farmers, and you can see nearly that many numbers of eGanna app downloaded. Mobile hit app hits is 81.57 crores. That many times they're going and visiting for their day-to-day operations instead of going and running around offices. The average rating is 4.1 of this app. The 5-star rating is out of 36,000 plus ratings. 22,115 have given 5-star ratings. The SMS purchase which we have issued is 7.97 crore, which is roughly 8 crore this year to our 45 lakh farmers. The benefit to farmers in this, because ultimately they had to benefit. 0 trip to offices, fresh sugarcane supplies, increased weight, more area under sugarcane, higher incomes, real-time information and transparency. Additional income was 2,77,552 crores, which is a huge income, additional income. Every year they were getting around 33,000, so now they are getting 2,752 crores as an additional for increased weight. Additional income by way or because of additional area under cultivation is 1,115 crores. That's a great amount to in the hands of the farmers. Then benefits to mill, because they are one of the important stakeholders. Arrival of fresh sugarcane, better capacity utilization, reduced cut to crush time, increased sugar recovery, and they also got, because of increased sugar recovery, 3,332 crores as additional sugar produced, and that much amount into their cash box, so to distribute to the cane farmers their dues as well as for the profits to the company. Benefits to the government: transparency and better control, increased efficiency and effectiveness, effective complaint redressal mechanism, because now complaints are also redressed through this system only. Cut layers in government, minimize litigation between stakeholders. Every year we would have 250 to 300 writ petitions filed. Now, since this project has has been rolled out, hardly 5 or 10 writ petitions are coming up. Gain to all stakeholders in totality: 3.63 lakh fake and double bonds closed. These were the mafias who were using this fake and double bonds. 10.67 lakh new members, poor farmers who were not allowed to join the societies could join automatically through this e-system. They don't have to go anywhere because they were not allowed by mafias. Paperless and eco-friendly, trust ensured increased faith of farmers in the system, helped foster COVID appropriate behavior because they were coming and this entire season is for both the COVID phase 1 and phase 2. It has coincided with the sugarcane harvesting period. Then saving of time and drudgery to the stakeholders. Last two slides. Cost of the system is astonishingly is very low. It's just 5.65 crore for these 2 years. And in these 2 years, the benefit to all the stakeholders is a whopping 11,555 crores. The CB ratio is huge. If anybody has a doubt, I have all the calculations of worksheets to explain that. Ultimately, we have to see how its sustainability would work. It's environment friendly. Its universal acceptability has been there. The data itself shows and proves penetration of IT in rural areas. You can see the number of it has been downloaded. It's a win-win situation for all the stakeholders. And with this, I end. Thank you very much. If anybody has the question on how this PB ratio, cost benefit ratio, I can show the worksheets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. I think it's the second time I saw this presentation, and I thought it was massive decluttering of the system that has taken place, and the quantum of computerization and simplification of processes surely is a huge amount of process reengineering that has been undertaken by the government of Uttar Pradesh. There are some questions, but I'll request you to kindly stay in the web room till the third presentation is also completed, and then we can take up questions. I'll invite our third speaker, Dr. Rajendra Nimje, and with the request that Professor Poonam may kindly introduce the speaker, and then we can request Nimje sir to make the presentation. Yes, please.
Now, I would like to invite Dr. Rajendra Nimje, Director General, Center for Good Governance. Dr. Nimje, former IAS office, IAS Joint Center for Good Governance, Director General in December 2016. He has over 37 years of professional experience in the field of public administration, urban reforms, e-governance, energy and infrastructure. During his long career span, he has provided leadership to public and private sector organizations of various sizes, cultures, and different kind of business, creating a unique blend of experience. As part of Indian Administrative Service Officer, he has worked in different departments like revenue, municipal administration, technical education, excise, GAD, elections, etc. He holds Bachelor of Engineering, Electronics and Power in 1981 from National Institute of Technology, Nagpur. Master of Technology in Communication Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai in 1983, and Digital Vision Fellowship in E-Governance from Stanford University, USA in 2004. He received Social E-Challenge Award 2004 from Stanford University, USA, National E-Governance Award in 2006 for e-immunization and for health call center projects. So it's a very great achievement, sir. So please welcome, and I am inviting to speak on your project, Smart Vendor Act. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to present this Telangana Pattana Pragati, and I would like to start with thanking Srinivas sir for giving this opportunity to showcase this kind of simple but very powerful intervention, how it can make such a big impact in such a short span of time when the opportunity knocks our door in disasters also. I mean, that is the learning which I think definitely the participants can take it forward. It can be replicated in other states, and it will be a pleasure for us to help them out on that. So the brief presentation structure is like the case of street vendors, and then of course the intervention through PM Swanidhi scheme, our Pattana solution, what is the benefit impact on stakeholders, achievements, sustainability, and little bit about us. So I'll start here. The street vendors, as you are aware, we all are connected because mostly the people who are joining today are working in urban areas, I believe, but we have come across these people also have vending in the rural areas as well. It is applicable there. Vegetables, fruits, small grocery item, we all at some point of time or regularly even now we are buying from them. But the plight these people are having has been narrated in that Street Vendors Act 2014. It took so much time to understand the dynamics that on one hand, these people are required in the society. These people provide some essential services at our doorsteps, and still the authorities, I mean, the law was considering them that, you know, these people are blocking the footpaths. They are not required kind of thing in the urban areas. So this act particularly provides the protection to them, their rights, their social security, and urban street vending. But I can definitely say acts when the implementation, there's a lot of gap. So this act is also not very different from other acts, similar nature. It takes time to reach the fruits to this marginalized section of the society. Street vendors, we can also say, like we are talking about nowadays, entrepreneurs from all sectors, and their nano entrepreneurs play a very vital role in urban economy. The earlier paper-based enumeration system, I am sure it must be in vogue in other states as well. It is there that we enroll them, we try to provide some benefit some way, but it is not a very systematic thing. What happened is the pandemic has triggered the need of contactless enrollment at a rapid pace, and then of course then channelizing of the capital. You see here the street vendors, if you see their plight, they were borrowing at, this is not exaggeration, I checked it, 10% interest a day. They were given in our Hyderabad particularly, I seen 1,000 rupees they borrow in the morning, and in order to get that 1,900 only be given to them. They have to return 1,000 rupees in the evening. That amounts to 10% of the interest per day. We can't think of 3,650%. And see what happened is these people on top of it during pandemic, they are out of the work. I don't know how they manage. Even the marginalized existence which was there, that came under threat. Luckily, we were thinking in Telangana government was thinking on the lines what to do. We are already putting that we should do something, but this PM Swanidhi scheme from Government of India has been very, very handy. And it is a well-designed scheme that rupees only 10,000, but it is so important to them, working capital to SVs, to resume their vending activity. But what it requires is to bring these people who are not in the fold, to bring quickly and then establish the channel to transfer the money in their account. So if you see here, the system, 5 years in our state, only 83,000 enrollment, and all are offline registration, huge paperwork, time consuming process, as you are all aware about these manual processes. Then the forms which are enrolled, they will not be found to enter into some kind of database. Errors in record, vendor cards will not be issued immediately. So the benefit they will not get so easily. So OPEX system, when you see this Swanidhi, just highlight the couple of points here. It was launched in June 2, 2020. And the basic aim is to give them credit for this SVs during COVID period, and I think thereafter also. So they have embedded 10,000 rupees as a working capital, but also they are rewarding and incentivizing that monthly repayment. Those who are consistently repaying, the Government of India, the scheme rewards them. And then there are rewards on the digital transaction. Another advantage is when people, instead of cash, the cashless transactions, which Government of India is aiming so hard, this is a success story, I can say on that. So they are eligible for the second tranche if they timely repay. And there is no, of course, prepayment penalty. Coming to the solution, the Center for Good Governance has been given a task cut out that we have to do this in a span of only 7 days. And we did this solution, which is mobile based as well as web based. And it helps them not only for a Swanidhi scheme, but the other schemes of government of Telangana like SUSV, the regular support schemes. All the money for all the street vendors hereafter will be channelized only through this scheme. There is no other paper-based system. So here the stakeholders you can see, of course, the street vendors and the citizens, they are major stakeholders. Government of India, Government of Telangana, departmental functionaries. This is covering 141 urban local bodies, municipalities, municipal corporations. Then, of course, the stakeholders are the community organizers, the district mission coordinators, municipal commissioners, directors, etc. The key features is a mobile app, which is used for enrollment process so that it is contactless. People can go there, take a photograph quickly and enroll them. Real-time dashboard is provided for the department to monitor how much progress is done daily, weekly, etc. Live photo capture of the applicant with the vending activity. Of course, Aadhaar number is also embedded to eliminate duplicates. Generation of card, ID card for them, which is very, very important, within 48 hours. The channelized credit also directly to their bank account. This was made in 2 languages so that when the people go for enrollment, it is in the Telugu is mostly used, and for dashboards, English is available. And the key modules in this solution, e-governance, m-governance solution is the enrollment is the first module through mobile app, as I mentioned. The impact is 6 times increase in that 3 months period. The other one is issue of digital vendor ID and certificate. And this enabled the commissioner to generate ID and certificate through our system immediately. Daily they used to generate, and then next day they used to hand over. The dashboard, as I mentioned, helps them to track. The impact of the dashboard is help the officers to monitor all enrollments, timely enrollments. The street vendors are benefited because there are no hard copies to be brought by them and no the photographs to be carried. Photo will be taken by the mobile only. Identity card, as I mentioned, in 48 hours to them. Major thing is saving to poor because they are now out of clutches of unscrupulous money lenders. You see, whenever there's a pressure or there is some kind of, a target that we remove the encroachment suddenly, and then all these people will be removed from their wherever they are vending. They are the first, I think I can see in urban areas to be moved out. And the acceptance of digital payment through the QR code, this you can see 98% of the street vendors cards are issued through Patana Pragati application, and about 351.99 crores of loan has been channelized through the system to 3.5 lakh people. The street vendors, you can see that 200 crore approximately there is an interest saving for them per annum through this PM Swanidhi scheme, which would have gone in the pockets of private money lenders. They also awarded the interest subsidy of 1.6 crores for prompt repayments. 3 lakh SVs are accepting digital payments now, which is a major, more than 50%, and avail incentives for that also as 23.5 lakh rupees. And another, achievement I can definitely say is because they are high risk category people. So our government has taken a special drive to see that they are all vaccinated on priority. So high risk category, they are now 6 lakh vaccinations are all of them are vaccinated. So that is another major achievement during this pandemic. The department fast track enrollment, they have completed whatever the targets they do have, that is also been done in 3 months period. Real-time dashboard for tracking, avoiding delay in errors of data entry. They eliminated the middleman totally, and law enforcement has been made easy because the police people also have now these all list of the people with the ID number and all. Whenever they go, only they will try to push the people saying that aap apna ID card hi bana ke la lo, aapka hai nahi, So like that, it will also help us to get other people also in the system. This has helped us, Telangana, to get a ranking first place in the country. Cities less than 1 lakh population, there are top 10 cities are from Telangana. 1 to 10 lakh, we have first rank for GWMC, and then Nizamabad third rank. And then you can see on the right side, the jump from 83,000 to 5.17 lakh, that is 600, more than 600% increase. Cumulatively also, and then you can see here the total impact of 351 crore loan channelized. The sustainability of this application, we feel that it has shown its efficacy, that we have developed in 7 days. It is totally deployed in 3 months, phenomenal success. It is sustainable over other schemes also, which we feel. There is a standardized process. It is rolled out for all the ULBs. It is integrated in other line department schemes, the beneficiary particularly. So whenever there are other kind of schemes are rolled out, the beneficiaries are checked from this. They need not again enroll for other schemes. Like for SC, BCs, and there are so many schemes that are integrated. We feel that either in rapid replication drive of MIghty or any other scheme, this can be given to other states. So I think there is a big potential. It's a simple but effective. If you see here, some photos, photo galleries. For paucity of time, I didn't put the video. The video is there. So this Government of Telangana organization. However, we work for all various state governments. Right now, we are working for 6 state governments, including Karnataka, Jharkhand, Himachal, and other state governments, Tamil Nadu. We also provide services for international organizations like World Bank and the other organization like UNICEF. We are right now working. We do normally about 150 to 200 projects in a year of e-governance, m-governance with 310 resource people. Process-oriented organization having 9,001, 27,001. It's a government organization. Why I'm making sharing this so that all other state governments, if they want to do, they can reach us immediately. There is no problem. We can work on MOUs, and there is no need of tender and other things. So this is what we have a Art of State Data Center, which Srinivas sir has seen 2 days back here in Hyderabad. And we also have the DR Center, Near Line Disaster Recovery, to ensure that your data is not only safe, but it will not get somehow corrupted and gone somewhere. It is available for you. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity, Srinivas sir, and every participant. I hope this will be certainly useful to all of us. Thank you.
Yes, very useful. Thank you very much. It is quite amazing to see the impact and reach of this particular project in Telangana. Let me come to the question answer session, and we'll take up 3 questions at a time. I'll take the first speaker, Dr. Shalini's questions first.
Sir, Namaskar. I am Additional District Magistrate from Gajapati, an aspirational district, Odisha.
Please wait.
I am lucky, sir. I am lucky to have heard all the 3 eminent speakers, and all the 3 wonderful presentations actually will go a long way in helping districts like us. I just had actually Shalini ma'am's presentation. I got the answer in the last speaker's presentation. We could know how technology technology actually has done wonderful works in transformation of lives of people. So what ma'am has presented during her presentation, how to utilize the CSR funds through an app, which could be actually utilized in the AP model, that is by Center for Good Governance in Hyderabad. And also the Ganna Kisan model also, sir, is very impressive. My only request is, could you please share all these presentations to our email so that we will be taking printouts and we will be making use of it in our urban and rural schemes.
I think the Center for Good Governance is uploading all the presentations on their portal, so everybody can through their portal can take that. I think Srinivas ji would be will elaborate on this.
Yes, sir.
The collectors, all participants can contact us anytime, as I have told. We'll be happy to even not only give the presentation, share the presentation, but you help you out. And what is in your, you are planning to have some intervention. We can help you on that because we have so many interventions with us. We can help you on that.
Yes, sir. Actually, your presentation is going to help states like Odisha because we have also plans of street vendors policy, and your app, how it has actually in a short time has covered so many street vendors and distributed the benefits through online method by using without any having any survey by going to the fields and all. That model will definitely help to district like us, sir. We could replicate those models in our district, sir.
Sure.
Any questions on Akanksha? I have to leave for another meeting. Yeah, madam, please come up. Unmute yourself, kindly.
Yes, Dr. Shalini, let me congratulate you on your excellent presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. I've read some of your books and your articles in the IJPA journal. So I'm really happy to be interacting with you today. Now, first of all, let me congratulate you on this excellent Akanksha initiative because you have really effectively confronted corporate critics who always say that the government really spells out or simplifies the modalities for CSR funding. And CSR funding is never really 100% utilized or taken, can't really be taken for granted because it's never used. I have three specific questions for you, regarding improving fiscal capacities of states, because this is a big issue. Besides CSR funding, what other steps at the official level have been taken, let's say in Karnataka, to reduce budgetary gaps? Like, we keep hearing of tax collections need to be improved and so on. Have tax collections really improved? Regarding the scale of PPPs in Karnataka, since we talk so much about networked governance being the future of good governance in India, what is really the scale of PPPs in Karnataka? And the last question, can we go beyond digitalization when we talk of administrative reforms? You've written on the Public Service Guarantee Acts. I really want to know what is the latest development on these acts? Have they stagnated at a point, or you see many more things happening or more services being added? Because you've written on this, so I would like to know. These are my specific questions.
Sure. As far as fiscal deficit is concerned, Karnataka is one of the best governed in terms of financial administration. Our deficit is onto the minimum. Our borrowings were also minimum. It's just that during the COVID pandemic, when the government of India raised, cap saying that, okay, you can go up to 2% and borrow, we still haven't borrowed up to 2%. We are much lesser. So we as a conservative state, we want to maintain our activities within the resources that we have. And certainly, resource generation is a very big factor where the emphasis is on ensuring that whatever is the potential is realized. Our sales tax collections, our commercial tax collections and other things, we have again Sakala, it is under the Services Guarantee Act, Inbound Services Guarantee Act. So the people who have to pay the taxes, even in municipal administration, they find it very easy to pay because it's all online. And let me tell you, you said it is stagnated. No, in 2011, we had 151 services. Today I have 1,051 and it's growing. It's growing with every day. So
That's
people are
wonderful.
finding, yeah, this is helping us in also, you know, that ease of business and so many other things. So every department also is, you know, proactively coming up and saying, please include my service under Sakhala so that my results are much better. As far as PPP projects are concerned, yes, this is a very, very important area which we are looking at for, again, you know, our resources gap to be bridged. So what we've done is, as per Niti Aayog and Finance Department's directives, we are now looking at the asset monetization as well as the Atmanirbhar project preparation. So planning department, finance department, and infrastructure department, three of us together, we have mapped all the assets of all the departments. Then we are having one-to-one meetings with them saying that, okay, which of your assets can actually be monetized? They're useless. They can be monetized. Two, which of them can be actually put up on a PPP mode where the ownership will remain with government, but you can get additional services, additional assets generated so that government doesn't have to spend on that. One simple example I will say, because I'm also heading the youth empowerment and sports department. So one stadium which is there in Bangalore, I used to get some 5 crore grant from the government just to maintain it, whatever resources, whatever infrastructure is there. Today, under the Atmanirbhar, it doesn't come under Atmanirbhar, sorry, under the PPP, a project for 1,300 crores infrastructure development has been prepared. Like that, all departments are working on. As of now, about 10,000 crores worth PPP projects are already on the initiation side. They have been approved by the State Empowered Committee and so on. So we are looking at every department trying to make good, you know, the best returns from the assets that we had. And government is an asset rich, you know, entity. All we had to do is judiciously make use of that resource, and that will, to a large extent, take care of our demand versus gap. So in my presentation, I had shared my Vision 2030 document. So we planned for the next 10 years, and the state needs a gap of 10 lakh crores to be, you know, somehow mobilized. So we're looking at many resources, and I'll be very happy if you can also tell us some other untapped resource, which we'll be very happy to grab. Thank you.
And madam, where are you in the SDG implementation index?
We are in the third rank of the groups, state groups, Niti Aayog's report of the last year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question from Akanksha? Otherwise, I'll move out. Yeah. Poonam.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
Poonam.
sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. You have presented is very, very great presentation, and we can say that it's a very, very, I think, can be a role model for each state who are willing to do something like that. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye, Sanjay. I think Srinivas has already left.
Bye-bye.
I think there is some internet connection.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Now I would like to the participants. We may take 3 questions from the participants for Shri Bhush Reddy sir. He has presented Ganna Kisan project. So anybody can ask. Only 3 questions we can take. Any question from? We can take up only 3 questions. Hello, am I audible? Any questions? There are many, I think, the collectors who are listening from aspirational districts. This is a very great role model for districts also. This will be, I think, implemented in the states where Ganna is available.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think.
please. Yes, please.
Unmute your mic, dear. Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much, sir, for this a very good, well-structured and a crisp presentation. Sir, my question is, you have mentioned that there were a lot of, you mentioned that as a sugarcane mafia or Ganna mafia. What are the particular strategies you have used for implementing this and to take them on board without any means a law and order problem and other things? Thank you, sir.
Very good question. See, one of the biggest reason, and therefore it was one of our major objective. What happened 25 years back, the society's work of cane marketing, that is, cane marketing starts from cane survey. Then we prepare their cane calendars. We tell them this is your quota, which we assign to you, and for which you will get these many slips at these intervals. So that's how the cane farmer interacts from 1st of May when the survey starts. Then in the month of July, August, the survey ends and their other planning part takes place where their calendaring is done, and each farmer is told that you have been given this quota, you will supply 200 quintals or 2000 quintals or whatever, and this is the way you will supply, and your tickets would come this way. If anybody, all of you know, members who know about cane is an annual crop. Rather, it is by a 2 years crop, where 1 year you take the ratoon, or first year you take the crop, and next year you take the ratoon. In Hindi, it is called pedi. Pehla paud lete, fir pedi lete. So they do it for one crop. They do it for 2 years, crop and ratoon. So 2 years they will do that survey. Every farmer, the survey and everything happens year after year. But for these 2 years, for one crop, what we do, we first do start survey from 1st of May, and then it goes on till for 2 months, May and 30th June. Then we start their calendaring and other activities. Once that activity, we tell them this is the quota you will get, these many slips you will get. If he has a bullock cart, he take an 8 quintal or a 16 quintal like that. If it's a tractor, so if you take a bigger vehicle, you get lesser slips. If you get a smaller vehicle, you get more slips, and then it is equally distributed so that the sugar mill also gets equitable sugar cane for the whole season. So there are 6 out of the 6 months. 3 months is the crop, the ratoon goes, because ratoon matures fast. So first 3 months ratoon goes, and by that time the last year's crop, which was sown new crop, gets matured. So then those 3 months it goes. So this is how it is done. What they used to do when we shifted to the sugar mills, they grabbed this in the guise of IT when government didn't have in 96, 97. They took over. Initially, they also did well. So each mill had its own systems, but they developed into it, and then for their own interest, they developed a lot of backroom operations. They would not survey some farmers, so they would be their reserve kitty, like in a petrol tank, in a mobile, you have a reserve portion. So that would be their reserve. Suppose if the sugar cane commissioner does not allocate adequate cane for them, then they'll take it from their reserve. But then those farmers would be exploited. So for them, the bureaucracy of the sugar mill also had their own corrupt practices and their networks, and thereby they developed certain small politicians or small representatives of societies, chairmen, this, that, and then they became goons into themselves, lords into themselves, and then they started dominating. We had illegal mandis also. 3-4 districts, we had illegal mandis who would ask farmers to bring there. What they would do, they would pay them cash, though very less amount. Like in 2017, when the rate was 325, they would pay some 210, and in 16 they paid 210, then they paid 250 like that. So we had, there are 2 laws. One was a softer law for crushing this mafia. One was a stronger law under the IPC and Essential Commodities Act and our cane law of the state. We enforced the stronger law, and we had, for the first 2 years, we had to do a lot of enforcement work also parallel to crush this cane mafias. But when everything was taken over by IT system, then their hands got cut off, because now we start from survey. Initially, the mills would do survey, mill would do calendaring, mill would do the cane slip issuance, which was manual. Now everything is on digital platform. From survey to cane slip through SMS purchase is done through the system. So then they got, in a systemic manner, they got wiped out.
Yeah, thank you very much for your reply, sir. Means it is very good to know that how systematically you have gone, and now it is benefiting farmers in a great way. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, please.
It was good hearing you about the sugarcane crop. Is there any other crop in which you've taken similar initiatives, or similar initiatives in any other crop has been taken not by you but somebody else? And the second thing is, what about cooperatives? One did hear of the cooperative movement at one point of time taking ground in UP. So did that really help the farmers, or do you think initiatives of this kind, which you're speaking about, is the only hope for the future?
See, this particular department in UP is unique in the country. The principal secretary or the additional chief secretary of sugar industries and cane development is it takes care of the agricultural work. The secretary agriculture also for one crop cane, food processing, industry, everything is under one umbrella, vertical, horizontal, including cane research and scientific development. But what the government of UP has done, taking this as a good example, we are trying to do the wheat purchase and paddy purchase, which the government does during monsoon season. After monsoon season, the paddy purchase, and after the Rabi crop, the wheat purchase. We are introducing a similar IT initiative, and we are also sharing our data with each other. Because if a farmer has sown cane, he wouldn't have sown sugar, wheat or paddy. So then there also mafias are there. Now we know that if he has sown cane, so he didn't had on that plot of land sown wheat or paddy. So this way there is a cross check, and we are experimenting this, and I think in an year or so we will be finally rolling out successfully both for wheat and paddy purchase, which is done for the PDS and FCI. That is one. For other things also, this can be taken care of. And therefore, we have shared it with all our sister departments, that is agriculture, horticulture, and others. So that is also they are also taking lead. But every crop has its own ecosystem. Sugarcane has its own ecosystem. Then if you go for paddy and wheat, it's a half-yearly crop or a 3-4 month crop. This is a 2-year crop. So the economics and the ecosystem are quite different. So it cannot be replicated like that. And cooperatives, yes, we out of 120 sugar mills, we have 24 sugar mills under the cooperative sector, which is also under the same department. Like in Maharashtra, it's a separate department. It is by cooperatives. But here it is all under one. The registrar of the cane cooperatives is also the cane commissioner in Uttar Pradesh.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Now,
I have
only one
a
person is
small
left.
question, sir.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I have a question
And
for
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Busi Reddy, sir.
Director for Center for Good Governance.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir, it's very, remarkable that the crop is, water intensive. So I was just thinking, is there any backward linkage and then management of this water systems? Like, it must be either under irrigation. So how they are channelized, either irrigation thing or coupled with this IT system to this particular, so that you can get more yield per drop of water or something that kind of sort. I was curious.
Yeah, your question is very good and interesting, and for academic purpose, let me tell you, cane and water are they work in 180 degrees apart. Cane is a very water consuming crop. Therefore, the biggest criticism when we talk of water management globally or nationally, cane is one of the biggest villain. So therefore, from 2017, we have introduced drip irrigation in cane, because what cane farmers used to do out of lack of knowledge or lack of extension awareness, cane needs 4 to 5 watering, but they were doing 10 watering because UP is endowed with a lot of water resource. We have a huge canal system developed since British days. So, and canal water is free in UP now since last 5-6 years. So they used to just flood it. Now they are not only wasting water, they are also wasting a lot of fertilizer. They are also wasting a lot of pesticide. Not only wasting, but it is getting sieved it into the water aquifers and the soil, thereby damaging the food chain. The entire food chain is getting impacted. And the adverse impact of this is developing cancer and other terrific and very, very dangerous disease in human beings and animals. So these are the, because it is going into the animal food chain, thereby into human food chain and so on and so forth. Therefore, what we have done, let me tell you, if you go by drip irrigation, there is a fertigation plant in that. You add the fertilizer and the insecticide or pesticide, the consumption goes by 50 to 60%. So if I'm using 1 kg of pesticide or 1 kg of 10 kg of fertilizer, I use 4 kg of fertilizer. In place of 1 kg of pesticide, I am using 400 grams of pesticide. So that much of less of pesticide and fertilizer is going into the food chain, as well as it's not spoiling the soil and the water aquifers by leaching and seepage. So that's very good one. So we are going in a big way. There was a lot of resistance from our machinery that in Western UP, the farmers will not accept this drip irrigation. But thanks to PM drip irrigation program, it's highly subsidized. So we are able to promote the farmers to go for drip, and many farmers have already shifted. We had some issues of, because we are using the target of all the departments. Only sugarcane department is using the target of the whole state government of Uttar Pradesh, which is allocated to horticulture department, agriculture department. We are only consuming it. But that the limitation of targets and budget is there. Otherwise, we plan to take it to all our 45 lakh supplier farmers and in totality the 60 lakh farmers, total cane farmers.
Trash mulching.
Then we have also gone for trash mulching. That also adds, saves the moisture in the land. Trash mulching is basically they used to burn the leaves, which is again causing environmental problem. So we just we have developed a farm machinery bank scheme for poor farmers. Rich farmers, they can take it. There is some subsidy of the government Ministry of Agriculture, and they crush those leaves into small this, and then that saves evaporation of moisture, and thereby it consumes it needs less water or watering for the crop. So all these side activities are there. Some is connected to technology, some it is connected to extension activities.
Thank you. Thank you so
But very
much,
good
sir, for
Thank you
the
so much, sir.
detailed,
Thank you so much. And it's a great initiatives which taken by you. And NCGG can say that these presentations, all 3 presentations can be taken up by the NCGG, and we will write as a case study. And we will go at the grassroots level and the practice level, and we will do a study of all 3 best practices. It is also requested to you, sir, kindly stay with us, because we have also 3 questions we will take up from the participant. And now we will come to Dr. Nimje, sir, the Director General for Center for Good Governance, Hyderabad. And I am requesting to the participants who are listening us, so may kindly ask 3 questions only in brief, please. So please, we will take 3 questions only. So please ask. Anybody from participant, please?
You're welcome. I think anything about the process, anything about the outcome, or whatever.
Yes.
I mean,
Sir is very keen to give your answer. So please ask. Madam,
meanwhile, I can just trigger the discussion of answering some earlier question that
Yeah.
any other system like the sugarcane is in existence. So I just want to share the Center for Good Governance has a similar system we have done for paddy. It is called online paddy management system.
Oh.
And we are the #1 in the country on procurement of paddy with our Honorable Chief Minister taking keen interest on irrigation as well as then procurement both. So I think the last 2 years there is a bumper kind of harvest, and then everything is channelized purchase from the farmers. It has gone to FCI and state warehousing. So
Yes,
anybody
sir,
is
you are right.
interested,
You are
please
rightly said.
contact us on that. Online
Yes, sir,
paddy
you are
management.
rightly said. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can say that it's a great initiative and the governance, because you have done it is for the street vendors, the marginalized people, and we can say the हाशिए पर पड़े लोगों के लिए यह जो initiatives है. So, and we can say in one line that protection from harassment by XYZ. I am not taking any name, but harassment from protection from harassment by XYZ, because these people are facing day to day. So it's a great initiative, and I am very keen to listen some questions from the participants. Please ask some questions from NCGG or maybe from the district collectors and anybody. Please. Madam Rumki Basu, now it is coming.
Yes, sir, I'd like to know. I did hear about a new act on street vendors. Now, has that new act come through? And that was other than that, other than digitalization or whatever, in the social sector. What kind of initiatives? Because this is related to my other two questions. Regarding fiscal capacity or marketization of farm products or the plight marginalized or whatever. What kind of pointed reforms you think? This is entirely, I'm soliciting your personal opinion entirely on these three issues. What would make the big difference? What would be the game changers besides what's been happening? Three issues I'm asking you. One, public-private partnerships or CSR funding or whatever, taking on board the private sector for funding or increasing fiscal capacity of states. The second, I'm asking you about farm products, because farm laws were so much in the news. How does the farmer at the ground level get a fair deal? That's what we are all concerned about. Is it only a marketization issue or some other issue? And third is regarding, the processes that are going on to give a fair deal to street vendors. Is there a new act in the offing, or that has already come through? These are my specific questions.
So let me start from the last one, because that is what I presented today.
Yes.
The plight of street vendors is known to everyone. Basically, everyone has seen it. Everyone,
Yes.
some point of the time, they want what they are vending. We are all part of the same ecosystem. But I worked as a municipal commissioner at 2 places. My task was, I remember, to remove these hawkers. The law was saying that no, these people are not required. They block the place, they block smooth traffic, and where whatever they can do some construction activities. They can go anywhere, but they shouldn't do vending. So there were efforts in the past to relocate them and have them at one place, calling some mandi or something, but it was never factored that this street hawking or vending is useful when it is really going to near to the people. I mean, their customers they are going to the customers. If you put somewhere in one single place, it's not going to, neither it is lucrative for them, neither it is for the customers. So I think those attempts failed. From that angle, I am very glad that this act has recognized, yes, they are required in the system. Now, how we can rationalize, that is a bigger challenge for the authorities, because you really have to balance. It's again a balancing act like any other thing. If you keep on enrolling, it will trigger more and more people will come in the system. Finally, it will lead to the earlier problem of traffic and other, jamming the streets and encroachments and all other things will start. So there, I think there is a scope, people, and also I think there is private sector partnership can also come up. Why it is only government has to channelize some kind of money? Here also government, I'm very glad, has not given any dole money, and they never wanted. Some money is given and then survive on that money. It is not, because it would have been consumed. They have been taught to repay it back, and they have incentivized. So I am very happy that it is now doubted that particular act has been with the PM Swanidhi scheme. It is triggered that kind of growth. I am I'll be glad to know in other states also, so that, you know, these people
My papers.
at bottom of the pyramid, they have also, you know, really Atmanirbhar and they can, you know, live with dignity. That is what I feel.
Okay.
And on your second question on public-private partnership, there are many models, right from the infrastructure is large-scale infrastructure projects are already in PPP. And now regarding you know, this model is replicable not only for that large infrastructure project, but small projects anybody is doing. For example, there are some things which are coming up jointly, like, you know, academia and then our IT industry here, particularly, which is predominant in Hyderabad and our tier 2 cities, Warangal, Khammam and all. We are taking a project in collaboration with them for the poor people. And then this is not a CSR, actually based on how they can help. Those people can help back to the industry. So it is nothing like a dole money and helping only them. They also help you. So this model, I think, will sustain. PPP is a partnership. That word is partnership. So that micro PPP or mini PPP, whatever you call, they are also doing fine. I mean, it is when we see PPP, we always think about mega projects, like what will be happening in railways and all now. But that is the second one. Third one is regarding the farm produce and all. The lot many things have to be done. Backward, forward linkages, which we heard first time when we joined in Masuri Academy. The problem remains. So I think a lot of some small industries are getting set up here. Not only by producing one single crop, but a variety of crops. Every region has a very different, unique kind of crop depending on the ecosystem there. So I think the industries linkages are to be strengthened there, and governments are trying. In all governments we can see, and of course the NCCG is documenting and then sharing this. This is a great effort, which, you know, we will know what other people have done. So I think in this farm centric interventions are many. We happen to do one such kind of project for Government of India, also Ministry of Panchayat Raj, some 3 years back. And we'll be glad, I mean, to study. We have done some recent studies on the turmeric, how the turmeric plants can be set up in, because it is produced in 3 districts of Telangana. So similarly, I'm very sure. So government not only giving incentives, but really going into the factors why it is not getting doubted into total system, not only for export, but export is the within India itself. I mean, these are the things which are being looked after.
Yes, sir.
And these are my views, personal views, as you said. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for this
Thank
question.
you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So now
Would I
our Director
request-
General is connected.
Yes.
Hello.
I'll request you to vote of thanks. MD, can I request you to give vote of thanks? I'm having connectivity problems to participate.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, I have, yes, sir. So, we NCGG, basically, sir, there is only one thing that I have shared with the lead speakers, that with your kind permission, we are going to document these 3 initiatives as a case study from NCGG. And this will be a very, I think, the great achievement for the other people. This will be, I think, the mutual learning, I think, the initiatives. So first of all, I would like to congratulate, and we are very, very grateful to the lead speakers, all the 3 lead speakers. The Madam Rajneesh has already left, and Dr. Bhush Reddy sir and Dr. Nimje sir. So we are very, very thankful to all the lead speakers. Our chairman, who is chairing this session, Sri V. Srinivas sir, the senior academicians from the reputed universities from all over India, also the top academicians from the Institute of Managements in the country, from the country, and the district collectors from the aspirational districts, all the senior officials from DRPGs, and my colleagues from NCGG who have joined today for this auspicious session. So we are very, very thankful to all the participants and the listener who have listened patiently. So thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you, Dr. Nimje, and thank you, Poonam Singh ji. And thank you all
Thank
the
you.
collectors and
Thank you, sir.
participants.
Thank you.
Sorry,
everyone.
I
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Most welcome.
Srinivasji and Poonam.
Sorry, I got-
No, sir, yes, sir. This is first time that there was some internet, I think, connectivity description from DG and CDG. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
And thank you, Madam Rumki. Thank you, Madam
thank
Rumki
you,
Basu
Poonam
ji.
ji.
Thank you.
It was good seeing
Thank
you.
you,
today.
thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Mr. Reddy,
much.
sir. Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Srinivas ji, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.